Thank you very much for coming. I know we have a lot of competition with other events, so very, very nice to see all of you. Thank you also to the Ministry for the cooperation and for all the panelists who found the time to come here. As you know, UNIDO, we have started our global program for hydrogen in industry about 2 years ago at the WEF. At that time, it was a virtual meeting, so we're very happy to be here now in person and to present a bit the advancements that we did with our program. A key element is, it also aligned with the mandate of UNIDO, is to trigger a fair and a sustainable hydrogen transition that leaves no country behind. That means we stand for fostering also the application of hydrogen in the global south and not just export. We know export is important, and we are also coordinating the International Hydrogen Trade Forum, so we know this is important, but we also would like to encourage, and we encourage developing countries to engage in the application, because this would trigger more jobs, this would trigger a value addition instead of just exporting a commodity. And it's easier to export green steel, green goods, than it is to export green hydrogen. But of course, we had yesterday also a very good panel. The transport of hydrogen is becoming more and more advancing and also economically feasible. So there are these two elements in the hydrogen economy that we are all together, I think, trying to develop in a sustainable and inclusive manner. Is on one hand, see, can we support the producing countries to also look into application, and how can we trigger an active but a fair export and import of hydrogen? And in this work, as UNIDO, we are looking at global enablers. What do we need to drive this further faster? Everything goes too slow. And I tell you, I'm not a patient person, and my staff knows this, just looking at my assistant. So how can we do this faster? How can we jointly do this faster? So we look into policies. We are working on policies, aligning hydrogen policy with industry development policy, skills development, and this is what you are going to talk about. How can you enable the skills? We will need enormous skills in the global south to really accelerate the uptake of hydrogen. If we are not doing this now, it will be too late. We will not catch up, we will not be on time. So this is extremely important, and I thank you all for being here. Standards, as you might know, in about 2 weeks we are hosting the technical committee of ISO, where the methodology for measuring greenhouse gas emissions in hydrogen production and transport will be fine-tuned and hopefully agreed at the end, and then launched at the COP, which will lead the year after to the development of a global standard, which is extremely important. If you don't have a global standard, it's very difficult to trigger the export and import, but also to work in the countries, and we know what we are getting. So this is an extremely important engagement of ourselves, of UNIDO, and we have a long-standing cooperation with ISO, where we then come in to build up the capacity in the developing countries to also apply the standard. It's good to have a standard, but you need to have the infrastructure to do so. And my team is also working on this. Innovation, we are starting a big program now with the support of the UK on triggering also national application and national innovation in the global south. And of course, you see here also finance. Everybody talks about finance, so also a lot of engagement in finance and global coordination. Just a big overview of our program. But again, thank you for coming here. Skills development are key to accelerating the hydrogen, fair and sustainable hydrogen economy. So with this, I hand over to whom? To you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. And now it's the time actually also to say good morning to all of you and to quickly introduce each of us. My name is Michael Harasek and I will be the moderator of this session, and we'll talk a little bit later about also my activities. We are very happy to welcome Julia Kore. She's from Hydrogen Europe Research, and so here we will get the European perspective on skills development. We need companies, we need industries, we need energy producers, and such. I'm very proud to welcome Clemens Schwarz he's project manager in the innovation and new business area at Verbund AG, the largest renewable electricity producer in Austria. I'm also very proud to welcome Camilla Daoudi. A warm welcome. You're doing your PhD at the moment in engineering sciences, but also but also work for UNIDO at the moment, and you're from University of Fez in Morocco. And finally, I'd like to welcome Professor Shihab Bouden from the Department of Industrial Engineering at the National Engineering School of Tunis, also to give the Tunisian perspective on skills development. It's a great pleasure for me now to introduce myself a little more. I'm head of a research unit at the TU Wien, Technical University Vienna. It's the largest technical university in Austria, focusing on technical and natural science education. I'm there at the Institute of Chemical, Environmental and Bioscience Engineering, and as such, we are very proud to educate bachelor and provide bachelor and master programs in chemistry, in technical chemistry and chemical engineering. And technical chemistry, both technical chemistry and chemical engineering are very strongly related also to hydrogen skill sets along the value chain. In the production, where material sciences and also process design is relevant, as well as along the supply chain and the use of hydrogen, in particular in the industry, is one of our education and research topics. I also want to emphasize that we recently started to offer a green chemistry master program fully in English, so that's also an interesting and attractive study program, also for guests from abroad, also from North African countries, which has recently been opening. And this is a joint study program that we do with the University of Vienna and with the University of Agricultural Sciences in Vienna. Further on, I'd also want to mention that we are also involved in activities with regard to continuing education. TU Wien has one of the largest academies for continuing education, and here we offer a very nice and interesting and exciting program which is also open for industrialists. It's called Renewable Energy Systems. It's a 4-semester program, a master program that we started more than 15 years ago, and so as such we are quite happy to offer this to students from abroad, foreign students around the globe now. Regarding the capacities that we have, and I'd like to shortly address also what we need, and that's also because we have representatives from the ministry here, we have representatives from UNIDO here. What do we need actually to do a proper education in the fields? And as such, I think it's also important actually to mention, yes, we have teachers, yeah? We have offices, we have lecture rooms, but of course also there is a need, or a strong need actually also to have better and improved pilot and demonstration facilities that allow us to demonstrate and to educate engineers along the value chain at university level. So this means electrolyzer technologies, this means blending and deblending technologies. This means also conversion technologies at pilot or demonstration scale. Here at the moment we are happy actually to work together with the Austrian industries and also the international industries, but also a stronger development and investment also in labs, in profound labs to support the skill sets development is for sure an important issue. But I don't want to longer discuss about what we do at TU Wien. So as such, I'd like to start with Julia Cora, the project manager of Hydrogen Europe Research. And I'd like to ask you about the European perspective. And here the question that I have to you is the broader perspective. What does it look like in Europe regarding the occupation profiles and the skill needs within the hydrogen sector from what you see as representative from Hydrogen Europe Research?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. Good morning to all. I'm very happy to be here today. So the topic of skills for our association, which is a Brussels-based association, has increased, let's say there's more and more light shed on this topic, also because it's the European Year of Skills, but not only because this is something that is being commented upon by our members who are research organizations or training centers, universities. And indeed, when we look a bit at job projections for the sector, in Europe, so you can find many different data. So I will take, it depends of course of the assumptions that I used, of when the projections were made, but if we look at some of the most recent data that were made by our partner Hydrogen Europe, they estimate that by 2030 it's about 250,000 jobs in the EU that are expected for this. So they have these projections based on the equipment manufacturing level expected by then. And then it is really interesting to look at what these jobs are made of. So according to them, this estimate is also a bit conservative as it doesn't account for energy-intensive industries that may be using hydrogen, and it doesn't take into account transport and storage of hydrogen. So looking at these jobs, we wonder what type of profiles are needed and what skills will be needed for these people who will work in the hydrogen sector. So we had the opportunity to study this in more details within a European project that's been funded by the Erasmus Plus program. This project is called Green Skills for Hydrogen, and it will last for 4 years. It entails different activities, so it's not only about having this diagnosis on skills and jobs that will be part of the hydrogen sector. There will be also some activities on training development, and this is starting now. So through this project, we thought what is the best way to really understand what is expected for the hydrogen sector. So we led 2 interview campaigns in parallel where we covered 23 countries and we reached out to almost 150 stakeholders, both from industries and also training providers with different questionnaires for each of them to gather the content that's the most interesting. And there, when looking at industry, all job profiles that were mentioned, there were 943 in total and 200 unique job profiles. So from this data, we were able to see what job profiles occurred the most, what are the most critical, and without much surprises, we found that engineers and technicians were the most in demand, but also project managers was something really crucial across all hydrogen activities, really showing that we're moving from planning projects to implementing them. An important finding then was this cross-disciplinarity of hydrogen. So we found chemical engineers, mechanical engineer, electrical, materials. So hydrogen is really at the crossroad of different disciplines, and at the moment how organizations are dealing with this is that they compose their teams with different experts in different areas that are then these multidisciplinary teams. It's the most common thing at the moment. And maybe one last point, what we see is that actually these jobs that are in demand, they already exist. Through our profession we can find, and often they've learned hydrogen through the training they've had already. So you mentioned chemical engineering, and this is really the job that came the most up in the results, and there are trainings for this already. So the question is, how do we ensure that there is enough people in these professions, because the competition between industrial sectors is intense. It's not only a problem for hydrogen. And how do we do we make sure that yes, the supply is enough for the hydrogen sector?
You mentioned an important point is actually also to make study programs that take 10 semesters, 5 years to make at minimum, to make these more attractive for young students. So I think that's also on our side, really to make study programs and also the jobs perspective more exciting, an important issue. 250,000 just in the hydrogen, that's a great number that you mentioned. Maybe a second question related to also this initiative which you mentioned with regard to Erasmus+, this ongoing project. Are there other initiatives, good practices that we can actually copy or maybe replicate with regard to the skill needs to the development of the hydrogen economy, maybe also from other renewable fields or from other fields of green chemical engineering, maybe?
Yes. So when we question training providers, we also try to ask them what they see as a barrier for the development of training that would fit the demand. And which is something you actually seem to disagree with, but they mention often the lack of trained teachers and trainers. So probably it depends on the audience, but this is something that came up quite often. And they also mentioned, though, the lack of available infrastructure, which is an equipment needed for practical training and education. Yeah. So, of course, this varies depending on the country, depending on the speaker and the type of organization you are working in. It's not a general rule that would apply everywhere the same way. But then some of them have addressed this issue. We saw some interesting initiative, and for having a full overview, I would invite you to really look at the document and the deliverables that we have handed in and you can find online. But what I found quite interesting is, for example, this initiative in Finland, where different training organizations have come together to create this specialized training program, which for one university would be quite heavy to carry. But actually, because they share the modules between different locations and this can be done online, it allows to have this specialized training without having only one organization taking care of the entire entire organization of the program. And this is state-funded and open for continuing education. And there are a lot of these initiatives in Europe. We found it also in Spain. There is an inter-university master. There are some European initiatives that are doing the same. So I think this really helps to answer this shortage of trained teachers and trainers. So I think it's quite relevant. And then maybe another point on another level is public authorities setting incentives. And there in Norway, we have the Directorate for Skills and Higher Education that has funded trainings to upskill and reskill workers, specifically in some industries, so in the maritime industry and in the oil and gas industry. And this is, I think, quite relevant for them as it really helps kickstarting these activities in training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think what you mentioned with regard to train the trainers, having better trained lecturers is for sure a topic that is very, 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 very demanding. And we see a generation shift. We have lots of retirements now, and we have to consider that we need young teachers also that can actually do the training and do the education with the students and or with the young engineers or workers. Thank you very much again, Julia, for your nice and interesting insights into hydrogen education in Europe. Clemens Schwarz, as a project manager at Verbund, you're much involved in hydrogen-related activities. Maybe the first question, from your experience, what are Austrian and European companies, and specifically Verbund, as the largest renewable energy producer in Austria, are doing specifically to contribute to the European goals that we have? We have the Green Deal, and actually every company, everyone has to contribute to these activities. And here in particular, does this contribution have any effect on enabling of the hydrogen economy in Northern Africa?
So thanks a lot. The warm welcome also from my side, and good morning. So I think anybody who has followed the hydrogen world in the last few years has not only seen very substantial activities in the public sector in terms of hydrogen strategies, decarbonization targets, also funding and support instruments that have been laid out, but also has witnessed an unprecedented momentum and push in the private sector. So companies around the globe have started to engage in the hydrogen economy and have started basically across their value chain and deep into various supply chains also to develop technologies, refine them, scale them, build production capacities. We're looking at gigafactories now in Europe that are being built. And importantly also to apply these technologies and build and develop concrete projects. And regarding the latter, I think it's important to stress, and this is the often cited dilemma of the chicken and egg in hydrogen, everything has to happen at the same time. So you need the production, you need transport, if needed at all, and you need the application. So that is absolutely crucial. But I think if you look at the overall landscape, I think a lot of players are catching up. But it is fair to say that European companies have spearheaded these developments. And if you look at the goals that also coming from Hydrogen Europe and the political side, we want to produce 10 million tons of green hydrogen by 2030 within the EU, and we want to import 10 million tons. And I think you can't stress it enough. We will depend on energy imports that are coming now from other fossil alternative sources. We will need to become to be green, and hydrogen will definitely play a significant role in that part. So if we talk about import also, Northern Africa comes into play very, very quickly because of the potential. And if we talk about potential in hydrogen, it is again multifaceted. So you need the renewables potential, you need wind and solar, and also in terms of the load profiles, it's important that they complement each other in order to maximize full load hours for the electrolyzer. You need transport or midstream potential, what I would call it, and that involves, on the one hand, distance. So the proximity to Europe is really a major asset that Northern African countries have. And the second one is the availability of existing infrastructure. Pipeline-borne transport is by far the most economic means to transport hydrogen, and there is a lot of existing infrastructure already in place that could be utilized, repurposed for the transport of hydrogen. And the third aspect, I would say, and call the framework conditions. So that is on the one hand, relevant players that you need to develop these projects in the region, and also the political framework in terms of how willing are these countries to engage in the hydrogen economy, how willing are they also to export hydrogen, and build the frameworks that enable the concrete projects that will then also enable the employment of the people that we're talking about in terms of skills development. So I think maybe that's a good bridge also to Verbund as such. As you mentioned, Verbund is Austria's leading energy company and electricity producer. And we're very broadly integrated, so we're active in production. We are one of the largest hydropower players in Europe. We operate the Austrian electricity grid. Recently, also in 21, purchased the majority share of the Austrian gas grid with a strategic view also on hydrogen, because we think it will be needed. And we are a strong believer in hydrogen as such, in green hydrogen. So we are really a green player. 96% of our generation is already stemming from renewable energy sources. And behind this background, believing that hydrogen will need to play a strong role in the future energy system, we started to engage in the hydrogen economy from a rather early stage. So much before the big political targets came, around 2015, 2016, we started to develop projects and very much developed our own skills. So we were very used to working with green electrons, green molecules were new to us also. So our approach was really hands-on, try to learn it. So we experimented with different technologies, solid oxide electrolyzers, PEM electrolyzers. Our first big lighthouse project was perhaps the H2Future project in Linz, together with voestalpine and other European partners, where we deployed a 6 megawatt PEM electrolyzer, started operation in 2019, so that was truly early. And we've since gradually developed our skills and our projects, are talking about 60 megawatt, several hundred megawatts projects, and we are also looking deeper into Northern Africa now and developing concrete projects in different consortia. In Tunisia, for example, we've been there for 1.5 years now. Also, we're monitoring developments in Morocco and other Northern African countries. There's lots of potential, a lot of things happening. You need to find the right partners. You need to find the right framework. But we are very, very much engaged in this. And yeah, I think this is really also a fertile ground if you do it right. And I think Mrs. Schwager mentioned initially that you need these countries also to have a strong benefit. This must be a win-win situation. If I talk about doing it right, this is an important element. So we need to integrate local companies, and this involves, again, very different and a broad spectrum of professions. But I think if done correctly, this can really be a great success story on a political level, on a company level, for all parties involved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. You just mentioned that skills and trained people are required to actually to do the job in Northern Africa, but also, of course, in Europe. And as such, I would like to ask you, what are the skills exactly that are needed from your industrial perspective for green hydrogen projects? This is the first question. Maybe another one that is actually also, if you can shortly give us a picture on the roadmap there. How can we get there? How can, from your perspective, and also what could be the role of the private sector to support the skill sets development?
Yeah. So in terms of skills, hydrogen is complex, I would say, not only from a marketing perspective, but also a skills perspective. You have various elements, again, involved. You have the renewables, you have hydrogen, you have electricity and hydrogen storage, you have transport technologies, you may have derivatives like ammonia, methanol, sustainable aviation fuels. And with all these elements, you need specific, perhaps overlapping, but specific skills. And you need to develop those. And it starts with land acquisition, legal skills that are associated with that. You need the technical development, lots of engineering competencies and different fields of engineering, obviously. And I think you have done a lot of work on this and perhaps better suited to go into more detail. You need permitting aspects, environmental impact assessments. You need, I think, the construction, the commissioning, the operation and maintenance. So it's a broad set of skills. It's not only academic education, it's very much also hands-on crafts and trades. If you talk about logistics, for example, I mean, it's not easy to transport an 80-meter wind turbine blade along roads that need in Northern Africa, for example. So it's not straightforward. Excuse me. And it basically needs to start now. I think you also talked about curricula that are being implemented that last 5 years. If we talk about importing 10 million tons 2030, this is very much now. In terms of what the private sector can also do I think to support this, or how can we get there? I think first is identify what is needed in terms of the skill portfolio, and also in terms of the dimension that is needed. What amount of jobs is needed in what sphere? The second one, I would say, is implement training programs, and that involves the academia, but training programs also, as I mentioned before, very much hands-on in crafts and trades, construction, permitting, etc., etc. I think what is sometimes overlooked is also the skills and competencies that are needed in the public sphere, because these projects need to be accompanied by the public sphere, and the state is very much an enabler, but can also be a facilitator, but can also be a major hurdle. So this is really important, I think, from the skills perspective, and then also from the regulatory framework perspective, to allow foreign direct investments and provide attractive, an attractive framework. And then the third element, so identify the skills, training programs, and I think knowledge transfer also plays an important role in terms of, I think, there is already a lot that you can build upon. If we talk about Tunisia, oil and gas industry has been there for some time. Morocco, I think, is also quite innovative as a country at universities, etc. And obviously also use the networks with European companies. There's strong interest from the private sector to invest there. And you can also integrate them in training the trainers, train people, doing internships, apprenticeships, workforce exchange, learn on the projects in Europe also, where the market is now further ahead and developed, to learn what to do and employ it. And I think this is very much something where the private sector can and should play a role.
So as such, I believe as a large multinational or company with multinational activities, you also rely a lot on in-house training, more or less. So you catch the interesting and excited personnel, more or less, and then train in-house. That is probably one way to do it. But that's not always possible for smaller companies because actually the resources are not there. So will you also go out a little bit and support your industrial partners in this context, or is that rather not done at the moment?
Well, we've done plenty of partnership programs and education programs, also in cooperation with other companies, and I think we are open to that and discuss that in more detail also regarding Northern African workforce. So I think boils down again to creating a win-win situation, and I think that should be part of the game.
Thank you very much, Clemens, again. I think now it's the time actually to get a view on the North African perspective, and as such, I would like to welcome once more Camelia Daoudi. As you are in a PhD program enrolled at the Euromed University of Fès in Morocco. Morocco was mentioned as one of the front runners in renewable energy and also in hydrogen in North Africa. And as such, I would like to ask you with regard to the challenges, the primary challenges that you face, and also the opportunities that you see in Morocco with regard to the pursuit of getting a green hydrogen industry on the road. And here also what you see, as you are also active now here in Europe at the moment, how can you draw any European experience and make it available to Morocco?
Thank you for your question. I will start by the opportunity in Morocco. So as we know that Morocco has made significant progress in preparing for green hydrogen industry, as we witness a growing global growth shifts toward clean energy solution. Morocco indeed has made significant valuable commitment by investing in renewable energies, as we know all, notably 90% of the electricity is produced from renewable energy in Morocco. More precisely, by the end of 2022, Morocco achieved a capacity of renewable energy installed around 4 gigawatts of renewable energy, comprising 23% of solar energy and 65% of wind power energy, and also 42% of wind energy and 35% of hydroelectrical power. So as you see here, there is something in Morocco as resources, and you may ask me that, but the majority of electricity produced in Morocco is from fossil fuels, from coal, oil, gas. Yes, indeed, but recently Morocco, my country, Morocco, has set an ambition target to achieve 52% of the capacity of renewable energy by 2013. So we see here that Morocco has how can I say it? Morocco has valuable commitment for energy solution, and what will make Morocco to stand out even more is that renewable energy account for 70% of the final cost of green hydrogen production. Additionally to that, worth noting that the Morocco has a strategical location, geographical location, and also a strong political stability. For my perspective, I think Morocco is an ideal hub for green hydrogen production and investment. For the second part about the challenges, we know that there is a lot of challenges, but from my perspective as professional and PhD researcher, I can highlight on the need of educational programs, specifically on green hydrogen, and also the gender inclusion, for sure. Yeah.
So do you, from your experience in your engineering studies, have you faced any courses that were related to green hydrogen at all, or to hydrogen industries or hydrogen production, transportation, and use?
During my master's degree, no, we weren't familiar with the term of green hydrogen. But when I started my research, my PhD research in 2021, also the term of green hydrogen was relatively new for us, and relatively new to our educational programs. But recently our educational institutions launch new programs on green hydrogen, like some institutions as UMC or LUR, International University of Rabat, launch new master programs on green hydrogen and its application. But we see that the need of educational programs and training programs is evidence, okay? So Morocco, in my opinion and my perspective, should enhance more in this field by improving our educational programs in the field of green hydrogen, and also addressing the gender disparity, because statistical reveal that around 90% of women are only involved as a work forces in industry. So, and also 60% of women represent the student on national level in Morocco. So we should address this issue indeed.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Now, with regard to the skills development in the hydrogen sector, what are the initiatives that you see at the moment, and what are the strategies in Morocco in this context? And also, do you see links to Europe? It was mentioned that we have Erasmus plus programs, and Morocco is also partnering that. Are these also contributors to the skills development from your perspective?
From my perspective, I see the role of skill development is crucial. It's important. It's essential. It's so important. Sorry.
Okay, so
I,
no, so
could you
sorry,
repeat the
once
question?
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about the skills development in Morocco's green hydrogen sector. About the specific initiatives that you see and or what is needed in this regard to actually close the gap between these plans actually by 2030 actually also to have strong and large investments into the renewable energy sector and also in the hydrogen sector on the one hand, but the needs actually also to provide personnel at all levels.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, that there is a need for our educational programs. So from here to equip our workforce with essential required skills for across the value chain of green hydrogen. So we should cultivate our workforce with. We should cultivate them with. We should cultivate them with. I lost my words here. So.
So there's training at university, but also at primary and secondary schools, also at these levels, actually also to get more skills workers. That is probably also one initiative that is being done at the moment, or do you see that this is an activity in the educational sector in Morocco?
So for one key of our strategies here, as my role at UNIDO and on a global program for hydrogen in industry, we are working on developing skill assessment methodology that will help countries to the developing countries involving Morocco to evaluate the skills, identifying the potential gaps, and also ensuring the gender inclusion. So there is some initiative from our side, and the key strategy here is to conduct this methodology that's based on the three interconnected pillars: skills and competencies, professions, and industrial activity related to the field of green hydrogen. So by conducting this methodology, and involving the national key stakeholders, I think we can do something and improve our national educational programs.
As far as I have heard from UNIDO, so there will be a report, and also there will be actually publications on the findings of this initiative in Morocco. And as far as I've heard, also this initiative. Thank you once again, Camilla.
Thank you.
Now switching also to the Tunisian perspective. I heard that there are also activities ongoing in the same directions. Gia Boden, as a professor in the Department of Industrial Engineering, which is of course also a topic that in the engineering school of Tunis where hydrogen will play a role for sure. I'd like to ask you first about the Tunisian opportunities. We heard about the Moroccan opportunities, now the Tunisian opportunities. Here in particular, in regard to the human capacity development, what is your experience?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, and then thank you for this opportunity to talk about Tunisia and the Tunisian ecosystem. So in Tunisia, we do have 13 universities. They are spread all over the country, and they are multidisciplinary universities, so we have all sorts of sciences, and most of these universities have engineering schools and technical trainings. And so you will find in all these universities programs, the classic engineering programs, but until now there is not a real program which is only dedicated to hydrogen. And I think it's still early to have such dedicated program. Now, all programs which are existing, they are trying to introduce something on hydrogen. Since last year, we did organize a program on training the trainers. So we trained some professors from different fields on the technology of hydrogen and invited all those professors to think how to introduce courses on hydrogen and how to introduce programs targeting hydrogen in their existing programs. Of course, we have also a research program since the Ministry of Higher Education has launched since 2008 a national program on hydrogen, and it's a kind of competitive call. So many universities have participated to this call. And now if we look on the benchmarking of the publications, if we take the energy sector in general, we will find that the second journal in which the energy publications are done is the International Journal of Hydrogen. Means that this program, which has been launched by the ministry, was a good seed to introduce hydrogen activities in the university. I will not talk about the whole university, but I will focus on my school. So in my school, we do run a master program dedicated to renewable energy, technology and management of renewable energy. And so in this master program, we introduced this year a course on hydrogen technology. Then we are introducing in the second semester of this year a course on hydrogen for the industrial engineering students. And we started with industrial engineering since it's a system engineering department, and so we would like to train students on system engineering of the whole value chain of hydrogen. This is important. Of course, we gave the recommendation for professors to introduce some courses in, I mean, some chapters in their courses on hydrogen. For example, the course on green supply chain will introduce something about supply chain of hydrogen and so on. And in this school, we also created since last April Hydrogen Hub, which is a kind of interface structure between university and social economic sector. And this Hydrogen Hub is aiming to develop some activities around hydrogen, mainly seminars. So we launched last year a series of 16 lectures, which have been provided in school, but also broadcasted online for those companies who are willing to get informed and to get trained on hydrogen. So this is roughly what is being done, but now we are missing to implement some demonstration projects. It's very important that the students or the learners or even the executives who would like to take some training find the opportunity to get trained on real scale equipment. Means a whole value chain of hydrogen in which they can test different sorts of electrolyzers, test different sorts of equipment, see how storage is done, and then measure and see how things happen really. And so we are missing of such demonstration facilities. Of course, we are open to implement and to cooperate with all institutions, means universities and companies, to implement such demonstration facilities. We are open to participate also to European programs, since Tunisia is an associate member for the Horizon Europe program. And so we are we have the opportunity to gain or to participate to programs, and then through such programs we can also implement such facilities. This is the missing element. Now, the Ministry of Higher Education is also willing or now doing the feasibility study for the implementation of a National Excellence Center for Energy, which will be implemented very probably in the south of Tunisia. And this center is targeting mainly renewables and hydrogen. So it will be a kind of center in which we can make demonstration of scale 1 of equipment and test these equipments in harsh conditions. Tunisian desert, dust, all the real case conditions of tests and in real situations in harsh conditions. And so also we are open to all sorts of collaboration to boost this center and to open this center for cooperation with different research institutes in Europe. It is a good opportunity even for European institutes to have such a center, since testing a system in Europe will not be enough to validate that such a system will be the good one for South European countries. And so having such center is an opportunity for European institutes to also test their equipment there in harsh conditions and in real case and real situation. These are very quickly the programs that we are aiming now.
No, it's very interesting to hear, to have such a center of excellence and good luck with funding and also with the startup. I think that is also actually an interesting, exciting opportunity for European companies actually to cooperate with you and use this opportunity to test the equipment under the climate conditions, under these harsh conditions, with regard to wind, with regard to sand, with regard to the exposure, also with regard to water scarcity, etc. So lots of aspects that are there that could be actually tested. So an invitation also to companies actually to get in touch with you. But related also to this aspect of capacity building, I'd like to have a follow-up question. In your industrial engineering program, how many students can you enroll at the moment, and is there an increase that you expect, also related to gender-related issues? I think that was an important aspect also that was addressed here. What is your experience in the last couple of years, also now in the post-pandemic, situation that we have?
Yeah, Tunisian students are eager to get to engineering studies. And what is amazing is in engineering schools, we have nearly 50% women, 50% men. So the gender issue is really very well addressed. And women are more brilliant than boys in our schools. And they are doing very well. And if you go to the master or the PhD level, you will find even more women than men in our schools. For industrial engineering, it's a department which is, the students are really willing to get involved in this department. Of course, we have a capacity in the department, so our capacity is around 70 to 80 students a year. But we are not the only industrial engineering department, so there are in different other schools industrial engineering training. And the industrial engineering is very well demanded by the industrial sector, because they are a kind of system engineers. They are generalist engineers, so they can be adapted, or they can adapt themselves in different conditions of work in different sectors. So they are mainly in the industry, in the quality management, in the supply chain, and the optimization of industrial systems. They are in the banking system also, because we have in this department some tracks and some optional courses on modeling, for finance, and modeling for, service. And so we have very good students in this department, and we hope that the introduction of a course on hydrogen could be also a good booster to have skilled persons for the future industrial companies to find people who can manage projects in the hydrogen sector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much for your picture in Tunisia. I think actually to summarize this, there are good prospects. There will be skilled personnel will be available to actually also to start and initiate stronger links and stronger cooperation between Europe and Tunisia and between Europe and Morocco. So it's for sure a positive situation. One final short question at the moment, because I also asked Camilla with regard to that. European programs like Erasmus+, is that an option at the moment, or also the strong links to French universities that you have?
Yeah, of course, we are associate member for the Horizon Europe programs.
Mm-hmm.
We are very open to Erasmus programs and Erasmus Plus programs. And we created a lot of dual degree programs, mainly with French universities, but we are open to create dual degree or to collaborate to the creation of new programs through the capacity building Erasmus Plus programs. So we are open for all sorts of collaboration in mounting such programs in collaboration with European universities. And we have really a very good experience with mounting and creating dual degrees, mainly with French, because our system is similar, very close to the French system, but we are open at the master level or at the PhD to create any dual degree program. And I'm sure that dual degree program is something which is appreciated by European companies, because they will find some trained people on the model that they know. So we are really open to create any sort of collaboration to mount or to start dual degree programs at the level of Bachelor of Engineering or at the level of Master, which will be much easier in this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the panelists for providing an insight into European, into company, and also specifically into the North African perspective in Morocco and Tunisia. And so the session is about to end, and I will be happy to introduce you to Judith Meyer from the Federal Ministry of Climate Action, Environment, Energy, Mobility, Innovation and Technology to give closing remarks.
Many thanks. Yes, Judith Meyer. I'm head of energy strategy at the ministry with a very long name. I'll just shorten it to climate action. I think that covers what we're here for today. I'm very pleased, and I'm also a bit afraid of having to sort of summarize and try to wrap up a panel that was so interesting and covered so many perspectives in 4 minutes, I think is what I've got, but I will try. And I'll open with an important aspect that our colleague from Morocco highlighted, and that is, I think there's a similarity between Morocco and Austria and many other countries between how far you've already got with electricity production, renewable electricity production, which is encouraging and gives us a lot of hope. And the same is true, I think, for Austria, although we've got a long way to go. I'm not saying that we're there. We'll have to deploy a lot more because we're electrifying a lot. But we're nowhere there when we come to speaking about the gaseous energy carriers. And of course, this is our next frontier, if you will. I think sort of my ministry's sort of position is we're ready to unlock the next level of the energy transition. And for this, we need to talk about whole economy decarbonization across all sort of applications. And that is where the pieces of the puzzle need to come together for the whole economy, for all energy production and use, and that is where hydrogen comes into play, and as a really important interconnector to really make the puzzle fit. And I think the sort of image of a puzzle is also some that's been used and fitting a lot for the whole hydrogen world. So what we're trying to do is, within this sort of evolving world where a lot is still very unclear and still in development, which is a challenge but also a chance, we're trying to always at the same time sort of reflect the urgency in the policy measures that we set, because there is urgency. I think I've heard it needs to start now, and everything needs to happen at the same time. So that's an important message that we hear a lot in the hydrogen discussion. But I would also add that, yes, we need to be fast and we need to be busy, but we also need to focus and not lose sort of track of what we're trying to do with the hydrogen world, and that is to save ourselves and not less than that. We're trying to decarbonize our economy, and that means we're trying to get ready for the future. And so within all the busyness and all the urgency, we need to be clear that we're talking about green hydrogen. Obviously, we're talking about sectors of the industry that we haven't got other solutions yet, because we're here because obviously we're talking about the need to import energy, new energy sources, and we're working hard to make this happen. But also we need to be clear that hydrogen will be scarce at first, so we always take great care to not sort of create absolutely unrealistic expectations of what can be done with hydrogen. But on the question of skills development specifically, what I've heard today, this morning, was actually, I mean, the title is about skills development in developing countries, but we really talked a lot about the sort of the need for skills development everywhere, really, and particularly in Europe. And I think this is sort of everyone's acutely aware that we need to develop skills in Europe. And there's a lot we can learn. We're already learning from Tunisia, from the close cooperation in Tunisia and in Austria with UNIDO's help and others. And I think that is the way to go forward. This is a mutual learning process, and there's areas where I think Europe has skills to share, but there's a lot of areas. Also, when we talk about harshening situations, obviously in renewable energy production, but also the energy world, infrastructure world, climate situation is changing in Europe as well. So we need to there's a lot we can learn on making our systems more robust, I think. So there was a hint, I think, also to that the need for skills development is not restricted to the hydrogen sector. It really is a thing that goes across the board. All of the energy sort of matters that we're dealing with, but also the different fields of work, if you will. And I'm quite happy to include ourselves in this public administration needs a lot of skills development. We're trying to do something completely new. I mean, because this is what I think, and I'm closing with this. It's a bit hyperbole, but I think it is what it is. We're trying to really rebuild everything, because energy is in everything, and we need to get it all done. And so we really need to build it up everywhere at the same time. And this session made me hopeful that we actually can do it, because there's a lot there. We just need to stay in touch and need to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And with this, I'd like to close the session. Thank you once again, the panelists, and also Judith, and for your closing remarks.